Hey, here we are. I'm Wesley. This is Signum Academy on Twitch. I am kind of being blinded by the sun right now, and yet I love it. I love the sun, so I'm not going to close my blinds. And so that I don't appear as some sort of scary ghost, I'm going to just stay off camera today. I hope that's okay. I kind of will pop in from time to time, but mostly I just want to start a new game of Undertale. It's a game that I love, even though I didn't play it as a kid. And so, in that respect, it's a little bit different from the games we've been talking about. In Undertale, we are tasked with making our way back to the surface after falling down a great big cave type of hole. This sort of thing happens in fantasy stories. Um, a couple of just brief glances backwards, and then we'll jump into the game. So, when we last spoke, I think it was about a month ago now, we were talking about the connections between Undertale, Earthbound, and the worlds of Middle Earth and other fantasy stories. That is kind of what we're about here at Signum Academy, after all. And I think we left off that time talking about some of the new opportunities through Signum Academy. I don't believe I knew at that time, but they're offering a free month. I want to say month. I could be getting that wrong. But anyhow, you can check out the website and see for yourselves what's on offer here. So I'll just put away the background and we'll check out the website. Hey, there we go, Signum Academy. Um, yeah, this was what we were looking at the end of last time. The various clubs and opportunities that are here um, are now available through the same platform where you can, as parents, that is, take part in the space or um, portals for adult continuing education. Um, so all of those kind of cool new opportunities. I think you'll be seeing them on the YouTube channel. If you're subscribed to that, they'll pop up, or you can come over to the university website and check it out. Um, I am, as I think I talked about last time, I'm going to have more inconsistent attendance myself here, so I might actually have to note that at the bottom of this page. That's actually a good reminder for me because it's looking like this time is going to become tricky. But I want to leave you in a good spot here to continue on your own if that's what it requires. Um, I know that we were looking at some of this stuff about the characters and the humor in the game um, as a way to connect it back to its inspiration in Earthbound. And I was planning on looking at more of these slides, but then I realized that they, as I say here, they contain some major spoilers. So I'll just leave it at this. The game, when you play it, has multiple endings. Um, and the story, as you go through it more than once, will not repeat in the same way. Um, when I taught this class before, it was with students who had played the game already and knew a lot about it. And I just can't be so sure that anyone out there watching is in that same boat. So if you've got questions, put them in the chat or comments as it goes off into infinity here. Let me get out of there. All right, let's start the game. Long ago, two races ruled over Earth, humans and monsters. One day, war broke out between the two races. After a long battle, the humans were victorious. They sealed the monsters underground with a magic spell. Many years later, ... Mount Ebott 2010X. Legends say that those climb the mountain never return. And we see images of our protagonist climbing into the mountain, going into a cave, finding a deep hole, tripping on a vine, and taking a nosedive. At least he made a soft landing at the bottom. And the camera pans up to show us, for the first time, a bit of color. The light outside far, far above. And that's kind of the opening screens of the new game here. So our playthrough here is courtesy of a person called Carrot. So that's the name they're giving their character here. You can name them whatever you'd like, of course. And when I say them, I do mean them. You can give them whatever pronouns you might like. The first thing that happens when you do start the game is you encounter Flowey, who knows you're new to the underground and is willing to teach you how things work around here. This immediately brings us into the battle screen. Well, we have a targeting system with a heart in the middle. That's our soul. If we fight battles, we'll gain LV, short for love. Friendliness pellets are going to come at us. We're told to get as many as we can. Oh, but Flowey's annoyed because we dodged them all. Now he's getting mad and calls them bullets. Suddenly his font changes to that sort of squiggly kind that we used. Has a pretty scary laugh as he sends more of these bullets at us before getting sent away by a kind-looking troll. Toriel, caretaker of the ruins. So she checks to see if anyone falls down, just like we did. She says that no one has done that in a long time. Alright. So let's decrease the volume here and make sure we're following. As we start the game, it seems like we're going to get a little tutorial when we're battling Flowey at first. However, it quickly becomes clear that we have yet another tutorial character whose name is Toriel, who's going to walk us through, literally, the opening sequence of the game. So she saves us from certain death against the first opponent, who can't be trusted, it turns out. She then proceeds to take us through some extremely simple puzzles in this area called the ruins. Her guidance is probably annoying to most players if they've ever played games of this sort. That seems to be part of the joke, right? And so, again, without knowing exactly who's out there in the audience, I think that part of the appeal of Undertale has got to be in understanding some of that lineage that we've been talking about before, how it is similar to and different from classic role-playing games that we would say define the genre, the games like Earthbound that we've been discussing. Um, Now, with that said, the battle system here is actually quite a bit more active than really practically anything from that historical um, basis of the genre. The movement of your little heart icon within um, the targeting system, and then as we saw there, the variety of options beyond simply fighting are both pretty interesting, actually. The kinds of things that are inspiring that are, of course, the kinds of things that Earthbound goes towards in the sequel, in Mother 3. An interest in questioning the gameplay and not just the story that these games could allow. Um, let's check out this intense moment here. I think you get the idea. And yet it goes on. Um, every time I keep moving my mouse around here, I think you're probably seeing that there are a variety of routes that this particular playthrough is going to show us. It starts with the so-called neutral route and then proceeds to show us some other possible ways to play the game. Um, so if you're playing on your own, you won't know necessarily which route you're in at the beginning. You're going to find out only at the very end. And Toriel continually here talks to us, our character that is, as if we are completely helpless, completely innocent, and really unable to do anything on our own. Um, Again, that may be some players of this game, but it really seems as if this game is designed for a a kind of strange overlapping of innocence and experience, of not knowing, which is the way our player character is represented as a child, and then really knowing quite a bit about these games, the games that are underlying Undertale. And that's the role of the person actually playing the game. Um, I can only speak for myself, but the kind of tension or friction that gets created between those two things is really quite interesting. Um, I think that something similar happens, and it might be a stretch to say this, but in the way that the world of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings is created and told through the perspective of the hobbits, who are these sort of apparently, or to all appearances, these weaker and more innocent creatures, um, these people who are like children in some ways. Uh, it's a lot like that, where the reader, whether we're a child or an adult, we're seeing the story through the lens of these childlike characters, these innocent characters. There's a lot of interest, I think, in not just telling stories for kids, but also trying to guide kids by showing them good role models, um, trying to process our experiences through the frame of a story. So our game player here is making some mistakes, even though they obviously know exactly what to do. I think just to show us more of what this game has to offer. But again, as you're starting your own game, you'll probably discover a lot about yourself and about the world of Undertale on your own. Um, the rock that needs pushed is telling us that we can't go pushing it around as if it were some sort of inanimate object. And we have to talk to it, ask it nicely to move, and repeatedly guide it to go in the right direction. So, not just enemies, but all the puzzles are potentially sentient beings in this game, beings with a story, with a voice, ones that we should pay attention to. There's all these little glowing locations. This is the first one that our player checks here. They're all the save points. They're places where you can save the game. And each and every time, whatever is contextually around it is going to be talked about in the little description. And it will end with this phrase about it fills you with determination. Um, I think we talked about that looking at the translation, but that term determination is one that um, Toby Fox and his team had to discuss quite a bit to arrive at a suitable translation for it in Japanese. There's a whole bunch of different ways to say it. Maybe that's not too surprising. Um, and so getting the right tone, the right connotation was a little tricky there. Um, just one of the many little anecdotes that is touched on in Clyde Mandelin's Legends of Localization book about Undertale. Um, but again, that's for those kind of super knowledgeable fans out there who want to know every little detail. Um, if you're just starting the game, you're probably wondering why this enemy, who appears to be some sort of mini boss, only attacks by crying in your direction. Um, Seems sort of depressed, doesn't he? So it's a pretty clear indication here that the characters in this game are going to have us deal with a lot of real world problems potentially. So from the very beginning, Flowey uh, was Flowey was a liar. Now this ghost, um, seemingly depressed and awkward, um, lets its HP lower, even though you can't kill ghosts. And by defeating it, you actually lose an experience point rather than gaining that LV, which we assume probably means levels, although Flowey called it love. So truth and lies, violence, peace, all sorts of issues, psychological even, that people might go through, but basic things too, like loneliness, awkwardness, are all in play here. And of course, that idea of caretaking that Toriel seems to represent. So it's a weird RPG. It's not just about fighting, gaining levels, gaining experience. Not that many games are just about that, but they sort of include that as the basic mechanic in the gameplay. This game is interested in questioning all of that and making us wonder um, how all of this is going to help our character make it out of the underground and back to the surface. Um, the introduction of the game um, spends a good deal of time here setting up these basic options of fighting against enemies or taking other kinds of actions. Um, and those are the two basic routes that the game affords, either fighting everything and defeating all of the enemies like in a normal role-playing game, or avoiding combat as much as possible, sparing enemies whenever it's necessary, and going through the game without any sort of violence at all. Those are the two extremes. Um, the kind of um, the kind of lineage here, I think, goes back to those tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, where you might have party members who represent the extremes of violence and caretaking. Um, in this case, your player character doesn't have a clear class identity of any sort. You're not a warrior, you're not a healer necessarily. You're just a child. Um, and so in some sense, it is your soul, it is your heart that's at stake there in battles. Um, you're determining the kind of person that you are through your choices, um, through your approach to the game. It remains a kind of a lonely experience, however, because there aren't party members in this game. It's a solo experience, both for the player and then for the player character as well. You're basically alone. It seems to be a limitation of the game itself, that Toby Fox is interested in moving beyond in the sequels. Deltarune chapters 1 and 2 has been released for free actually, and so you can play that legally without paying anything. Of course, for Undertale, if you want to see it, you can just watch it on YouTube like we're doing now. But if you want to play it, I'd recommend that you buy it. It's pretty cheap. And then periodically it'll go on sale and this and that. So um, I think there's a possible joke here. Um, as we mentioned last time, Toby Fox talks about learning to read by playing video games. And so that bit of text there on the wall suggested that some players might not actually know how to read. Um, it might be, uh, again, sort of a joke. Um, going back to the dungeon, or rather the Dragon Quest games, where sometimes the player character is a child and thus cannot read signs, even though the player themselves would presumably be able to. Um, or perhaps it's a bit of a joke on the player themselves, saying, uh, well, questioning again, sort of what we're up to by playing a child's game, taking it so seriously, like we tend to do. I find that to be a pretty easy thing to answer though. Like I've been talking about, I don't have a lot of trouble finding value in these games, and we'll just revisit that. All right. So why did Toriel leave us behind? Well, she's been preparing a surprise for us. And we get determination from seeing the cute, tidy house. Her surprise is a butterscotch cinnamon pie. She went ahead and made it with both flavors after all. And she has another surprise. She takes you by the hand, walks you up to the door of a room of your own, and pats you on the head. Runs off to check on the burning pie. So the things in this room are old. They are obviously for a child, but not necessarily for this child. Lots of things can be checked, including Toriel's diary. Why did the skeleton want a friend? Because she was feeling lonely. So, again, humor. Hmm. I think we'll get out of Toriel's sock drawer and make our way to the kitchen, because this last door is locked. Flower seeds and broken crayons, room under renovation. It's you, the water sausage. Again, the kind of humor is in that category of so bad it's good some of the time. Jokes that are purposely a little bit awkward and silly. Trying to go through the basement, Toriel comes out and gets us. 20X-teen, again, is a reference back to Earthbound, 1990X. The history of the monsters and the humans, again, kind of generic, but just so that we can play off of it, I think. Bug hunting spots and books, a curriculum for your education. She's always wanted to be a teacher. All right. I think we'll call it a day there. So you get the idea. The monsters have retreated into the underground and do not particularly seem interested in leaving. They've been sealed away by the humans during that ancient war. The human, on the other hand, would presumably want to make their way back to the surface, um, though this monster in particular is being very welcoming and making a home for us. And the question, I suppose, is how much are we going to rely on our understanding of how these sorts of stories are supposed to work, and how much are we going to let the story develop in its own weird and funny way? Um, that is up to the player to decide. I, again, would encourage you to play the game for yourself. Um, I can't promise that I'll be here on time or late in the coming weeks and months, but I will update this as I know better what my new routine is going to be, um, going on paternity leave here. And I hope to see you. I hope to hear from you if you're playing Earthbound, Undertale, or any of these old games. Um, and if you're stuck or need some help, well, this is probably not really the focus of our discussions. You can probably find a good walkthrough. But if you do want to discuss more of the meaning behind the game, then I can try to help with that. Um, so as always, let us know if you have any questions, comments, and we hope to see you back in a couple of weeks for the first Monday in May, I guess it'll be. Um, we'll continue our discussion of Undertale. Again, I'll try to hold off on spoilers for a little while yet. We'll just kind of move deeper into the storyline and see how it is treating everyone. Till then, take care. Enjoy the spring weather wherever you are. I'm going to go out while it's still sunny here, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye for now.